All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is the Orlando.net user group meeting being recorded August 12th, 2021. Our speaker tonight is Siva Kumar. He's going to be talking to us about GitOps with Flux v2 and Flagger AKS. Just a couple of quick reminders. This meeting is being recorded and will appear on YouTube on our YouTube channel later on this week. By participating in the meetup, you're consenting to being recorded. A couple of quick reminders. We ask that if you're not asking a question, to go ahead and mute yourself just for consideration of other guests. And also consider turning off your camera during the presentation just to limit the distractions for everyone. If you do have a question, go ahead and use the raise your hand feature or go ahead and type your question into the chat window. Either way, the host will keep an eye on the chat window and let Siva know if there's any questions there. Tonight's agenda, we'll go through the welcome and announcements here. Just a reminder, we are recording, and Siva will be presenting about GitOps with Flux v2. Orlando Code Camp and Orlando.net user group are sort of organized by these fine participants and volunteers. And a couple of quick resources. You can find us online at onetalk.net. Meetup and Twitter are probably where we're most active. And if you haven't already done so, we encourage you to go ahead to our YouTube channel and subscribe. That way you can catch this broadcast and future and past recordings if you might have missed any. Upcoming meetups, September 2nd, we've got Veronica Kolesnikova. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She'll be talking to us about machine learning for .NET developers. And September 23rd, we've got Squeaky. She's going to be talking about upgrading the Upgrade Assistant in .NET MAUI. No monthly sponsor this month, but if your company is interested in sponsoring, go ahead and email us at board@onetalk.net. We'll get you set up. And at this point, if there's any community announcements anyone would like to make, job postings, anyone looking for work, any upcoming meetups or conferences you want to plug, go ahead and come off of mute and let us know. All right, we'll take that as a no. Okay, so it's my pleasure to welcome Siva Kumar. Siva is a senior software architect at Computer Enterprises here in Orlando. He helps teams build and deliver mobile IoT and cloud and architecture specifications. He loves developer community-related event work where he can share his projects, ideas, and learn from other developers. You can find him online at Twitter, LinkedIn, and on his website. So with that, I will turn it over to Siva and let him go ahead and kick things off for us.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tim, for the introduction. Let me share my screen. Okay. Hey, good evening, everyone. So today we are going to see GitOps with the Flux v2 and Flagger using Azure Kubernetes Service. So Flux v2 and Flagger is nothing but like a method or tools to provide a continuous delivery and progressive delivery in Kubernetes. So the agenda of the session today is going to be, we are going to discuss what is GitOps and how GitOps different from other ops, and also like what is that the benefits of the GitOps and why we need GitOps and all. And then we are going to discuss like what is Flux v2 and what are the tools it's providing to implement continuous delivery in Kubernetes. And also like there is another tool called Flagger that's going to cover like a progressive delivery techniques in Kubernetes. And I'm going to show like a short demo in Azure Kubernetes cluster, how we can install this Flux v2 and Flagger, and how we can apply GitOps method to do the continuous and progressive delivery in the Kubernetes. Tim already gave an introduction, but I'm Shiva, working as Senior Software Architect in CEI, Computer Enterprise Inc. I'm in Orlando here, and you can follow me at my Twitter handle at KS72. So let's start with this thing, right? What is GitOps? So GitOps is like nothing but a code-based infrastructure or operational procedure. It's a set of tools or like set of techniques that's suggesting to have this Git as a source control system to manage your infrastructure and also to manage your entire application cluster management things, right? So we are doing like all the operation related stuff. It may be like Kubernetes or it can be a cloud native solutions, but we are thinking in perspective of like a declarative management. So instead of directly doing like any changes in the cluster, we are having this declarative language that's stored in the Git as a source control system, and using that version history management and also like the source code management, we are bringing the benefit of Git, right? We are bringing like the goodness of Git to manage our infrastructure or like application using the declarative language. So that's what like the GitOps is for. Um, so the GitOps principle is like the 4 key principles, right? The one thing is you need to describe the entire system declaratively. It may be like your infrastructure as code, or it may be your application management, or it can be your like a cluster configuration, everything. So you need to describe like your system declaratively so that you can store the declarative language in the Git, so that you can do like all the version history and do like the pull request workflows all in your Git repository, right? And also, whenever you are like committing your state or committing your desired state into the Git repo, it should be like automatically apply that approved changes to the desired state, right? So what does that mean is like, it's not like, okay, we are taking again like the source code of the Git and apply that in the cluster. It's going to be like a pipeline, so that like once you review your code and merge the code, then automatically the code should be change the cluster management or like change your infrastructure, right? So those kind of thing automatically approve that changes to the desired state. That is also like one of the key principle in the GitOps. And also like the final one, okay, I applied the change in the cluster, but what happens if someone is directly going and change the state in that cluster, right? Because right now, like since Git is going to apply the changes in the cluster, Git is become like a source of truth. But what happens if someone is like directly going and do the changes in the cluster? So we need like some correctness mechanism, or like doing that the divergence detection.
Siva, we might have lost audio.
Okay, do you know when it is, or is it like mute all the time?
There we go. That's better.
Okay. No, should I start from like first, or it?
I think the last I heard was ensuring the correctness on the divergence of if users changed things in production, being able to report on that.
Okay, I'm unmuting. If anyone muting me, don't mute me. Okay, yeah. So we talked about like the drift detection, right? So whenever like there is a drift happens directly in the cluster, because here like a Git is the source of truth for like entire cluster configuration or your like infrastructure configuration, right? So since we are like applying everything through like Git, we need to have a mechanism for like detecting the drift and also like alert the drift, so that we know like, okay, something changed apart from that the Git source control configurations, right? So if you take like any GitOps related tool, you might be seeing like at least these 4 key principles will like applied into that GitOps tool, so that like you can maintain everything and also like you can have these the entire workflow process implemented. So there are like certain things whenever we are talking about the GitOps to our like customers, or like whenever we are talking about the GitOps in like the meetups and all. So there is like always this question comes like, okay, what is GitOps and what is DevOps? How it differs, right? Because both are like ends with ops, and DevOps is also like handling these kind of like the pipeline and all. But how it differs, that's where like DevOps is like a broader umbrella term, because DevOps is not like more about like just a pipeline and all. It's just more about like the culture, methodology, and techniques and tools just to like quickly deliver your product and have that the entire flow integrated. GitOps is like it's a techniques and best practices to implement like just a continuous delivery, and mostly centered around like Git related workflow, so that it can like have these kind of like the cluster operation or infrastructure management, have that in place, right? So here like DevOps is more about the culture, and GitOps is more about like techniques and best practices. And the other thing is GitOps and Kubernetes, because whenever like I'm searching for the terms for like GitOps, mostly it's associated with the Kubernetes, but theoretically it's not. It might be like Kubernetes or like any cloud native solutions, right? But since like Kubernetes is like having the capabilities of like extending the GitOps and continuous adopting like the GitOps completely, so it's mostly implemented in Kubernetes world. But it's an operating model for like both Kubernetes and the cloud native solutions. The other thing is like it's a path towards developer-centric experience for managing applications, because whenever like we are talking about the Kubernetes, it's going to be like it's not only like the developer world, it's going to be like the operators world as well, right? Because we need to have that the entire cluster configuration. We need to install like a lot of applications, everything in like Kubernetes, and we need to manage those. So most of the thing is like the operator specific, but GitOps is like trying to create a path on like a developer centric experience for like managing the application and the cluster configuration. So let's say like if we are taking about the if we talk about the Kubernetes, right? So I am seeing like Kubernetes is like three different phases, or like three different stages. One is completely infrastructure, spinning up the new Kubernetes cluster in like any cloud. In today's session, we are going to talk about like the Azure. So spinning up the Kubernetes cluster and making sure like it has proper networking and container registry setup and network policies, all those stuff, right? So that is like totally the infrastructure, the cloud-based infrastructure for the Kubernetes thing, like setting up the node size, node pools, and setting up like the auto management nodes and all. So that is like the infrastructure piece. And the second thing is the cluster configuration. So I have created the Kubernetes cluster, but I need to set up like a right namespaces, and I need to set up like a right networking rules in the Kubernetes cluster, or I need to install like the basic application I need to run for running my workloads, right? For example, I'm having like a database, Redis. I'm going to store that in the Kubernetes. Then I need Redis, and I need like some monitoring tools to install as part of my application, like Grafana or like Prometheus. Then I'm installing those stuff also in my cluster, right? So that is mostly like the cluster management. So you are basically like bringing all the components that's needed for your application into the Kubernetes cluster. And the third part, or like the third stage, is like the app delivery. So this is where like actually developers is coming into. So developers are like developing an application in their local environment, but they want to continuously deliver the application in Kubernetes. Um, and also like they need to promote that version in like multiple environments, and they need to implement like traffic shifting, all those stuff, right? So basically like the delivery techniques, how I am quickly delivering my application into the Kubernetes. Usually it's done through like containers, right? So whenever like I'm creating a lot of microservices or like an application, I'm building a Docker container from my code. So I have like some pipeline, DevOps pipeline that take my code and package that as a container. And the challenge then is we need to publish the container into the registry, and also we need to update the Kubernetes manifest so that like it can point to right version of the container, so that like it can just like hey, I have version 1 already in the production, I am releasing like version 1.2, and we need to do like the promotion also whenever we are promoting between multiple environments, right? So those kind of like app delivery is like another stage or like another part in the Kubernetes management overall. So with this one, we know we are using like Terraform or like Azure ARM template, any infrastructure as code tool to create an infrastructure. In some places, we are using that same thing for like cluster management as well, right? So infrastructure, we are creating like the Azure VPC or like subnets, all those the networking related things, and we are just like creating like the AKS cluster or like any other network, any other infrastructure related things. So we are having this declarative code in using Terraform or like Azure ARM template or Bicep, anything, right? But whenever like we are creating this thing in like actual projects or like in client projects, sometimes we usually do like the cluster management also as part of the Terraform code, right? Because we know like for this cluster, we know we need like a Redis or like we need some MySQL cluster or like we need some Kafka image or something like that. What we usually do is like we just like manage that also as part of the Terraform code, so that like either Terraform directly running Kubectl code or using like the Helm release, it just like install the pieces that's needed for the cluster, right? And for the app delivery, once everything like the cluster is like spin up and running, for the app delivery, what we usually do is we just have like manifest in our Git repo, and the CI/CD tool like GitHub Actions or Visual Studio DevOps. You just like run the manifest in the Kubernetes using like Kubectl, or there are other delivery mechanism using like Kustomize to create the overlays, or Helm chart for like packaging your app releases, right? So the CI/CD tool, that's what like usually doing these kind of app delivery things. So you can see like we are having multiple tools, right? Basically like a siloed that different tools. One is like doing the infrastructure and cluster management, and another one is doing like the app delivery related things. Um, so ideally like the Terraform, it should be used for like only the infrastructure. The cluster management, it's ideally like it's also the application, right? So that's where like the confusion will come, like whether app delivery has to be managed as part of a separate Git repo or like as part of the Terraform. And also like there are certain confusion like whether we need to use Kubectl directly for the app delivery, because in sometimes we are just like to deliver the app, we are exposing like our all Kubernetes config to the CI/CD tool, right? If we apply like a right security structure, it should be doing like only the deployment, not doing crazy things like deleting the namespace or something like that. But we are giving like the access to the CI/CD tool just to do the delivery of the apps. If you're not like properly securing, then it's going to be like a big nightmare, because basically like you are exposing all your cluster operations into that, right? So for that we need to take like some security measure, but I'm just throwing this thought just to think through like, okay, this is like one approach. It may go wrong, right? We need to take that into the consideration and all. Okay, so that's where like we are going to talk about like what are the two different ways of deployment and how the GitOps is coming into like one deployment method, right? So usually in our current DevOps world, we are having like this kind of push-based deployment, right? So we have this app repo, and whenever like we are changing the code in the app repo or like creating the pull request and merging that PR, then that triggers the build pipeline. And once it's built successfully, then it pushes the container image into the image registry, right? In our case, like it's a Azure Container Registry. And also we are having this environment repo. So it just like update the environment repo like, hey, I have this container registry built up. You can go and do some changes. It may or may not be available, but just adding as part of the step here, this is where like we are just triggering the deployment pipeline, right? So it just triggers the deployment pipeline and it deploys into that particular environment. So this is push-based deployment. So whenever like I'm doing the changes, I'm saying like, okay, even though I'm doing like 5 or 10 changes, I'm pushing to the code whenever I need it. We can automate that, but it's mostly like Git is pushing the changes to the cluster, right? And there are like other approach as well, that is like pull-based deployment, right? So how that works is the same thing, the application build pipelines and it pushes container images here. And also like it updates the environment repo. But in Kubernetes, what it's going to do is instead of like the CI/CD tool pushing the changes to the Kubernetes cluster, the cluster has the operator here, and the operator observes the changes like, okay, is there any changes in the image registry, or is there any changes or like a configuration in my environment repo? So whenever there is a change, it just like do the deployment. So it's going to be happen in the cluster itself, right? So the operator is like observing the change, pulling the change, and apply the changes in the cluster. And also, um, did you remember like we talked about the 4 key principle of the GitOps, right? The fourth principle is like drift detection. So since the operator knows about like the state in the cluster, so it just like observe the deployment also. So whenever there is changes happen in the deployment, it just like either alert the user or update the repo like, hey, I got some changes in the cluster, and create the PR in the environment repo so that like we know, okay, this is the drift happened and whether I should like accept or just like reject them. Right? So the operator, it's going to be like, it's going to do the two-way communication. One is observe the state, observe the desired state that's in the Git repo, and apply the changes into the cluster. And the second thing is it's observe the cluster and notify the source like, hey, something got changed as well. So the operator is going to be like working that way. So this is like a other approach in doing like DevOps, that is pull-based deployment. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. So we talked about the GitOps operator, right? So in this diagram, we have this operator. So in the GitOps operator, so you can see like this operator only, we are having this in diagram here, right? So as I said, like just having looking for the Git repo that's in the desired state and apply that infrastructure, basically like the Kubernetes API, and they are having like some observability tools just to like notify back to that the desired state again. Okay, so for like okay, so I understand like the concept of GitOps, at least like how it works and how it observes the changes and all, right? So now, what are the tools we can use to implement this GitOps related workflow? There are like a lot of tools that's in the cloud native thing, the CNCF landscape. So one of the thing is like the Flex V2, and they have like a Jenkins X and Argo CD. I think Argo is like one of the popular tool in this space. And there are like other tools as well for implementing this GitOps in the Kubernetes. today we are going to talk about like the Flex V2. I tried like the Argo CD as well, and in one point they have discussed like both Flex and Argo CD is going to merge, but after some point they have decided like it's still going to be like different approaches, right? So Argo CD is one of the popular if you want to check out, but today we are going to talk about like the Flex V2. Any questions so far?
Yeah, what's the difference, major difference between Flux and Argo? I'm still not clear on that.
It's a conceptually it's the same, but I will show you that link. Some point like they have talked about like merging that. One second, I will see. Yeah, I will share you that the link to you. Yeah, somewhere like they talked about like the Argo, but Flex started their own toolkit that is called GitOps toolkit, and they have take like the different way. But if you take like the concepts, it's pretty much like the same thing. Once I find that the full conversation, I will probably like send that to you. It might be in one of my notes here. Yeah, mostly like the Flex V2 is like integrate the GitOps toolkit here. So this is what like they are saying like GitOps engine then being factored out of Argo CD, then they have just take like a GitOps toolkit and they just started doing this. So both have their own set of APIs to implement the GitOps here. Okay, so yeah, so let's start with the Flex V2. I think I have the link probably like after this meeting. I will just post that. I didn't have like enough information other than that like why they took the different route, but conceptually it's going to be like the same thing. So here like the Flex V2, they have initially like Flex, but like as I said, they look for like merging both Flex and Argo CD. Then Argo CD has their own GitOps engine, then Flex just like doing their GitOps toolkit as part of the V2. So here you can see this is the Kubernetes, right? So they have like a couple of APIs. One is like a customized controller, source controller, Helm controller, right? So in this one, source controller is like the main core of the Flex V2. So you can say like, okay, these are the different sources you need to look the configuration for, right? It can be like any Git repo, GitHub or GitLab, and it can be like any S3 bucket or something, or like it can be your Helm chart repo as well, right? So basically the source control is say like, okay, configure me like any source. I will look for that. If any changes happen, I will just pull the configuration in the cluster and I will apply that. Right? So once the source control get this thing, it just like syncs with the Kubernetes using the Kubernetes API, basically like the YAML source and the customization file. And also like it has the Helm control, so just like pull the Helm chart and apply the Helm chart as a Helm releases into the Kubernetes cluster. So you can see like basically this is the operator that just listen and doing this. Okay, so let's see like how we can configure this Flex V2 here. Okay, so I have this Azure Kubernetes service that's running on this Azure cluster. So just like the basic cluster with node pool and also like set up some networking things. Right? So here we can connect to this. I already connected here.
Can you increase the font on the console?
Yeah, sure. Is it okay?
Yep.
Yep. So you can see I have connected to that particular cluster, right? So to install the Flux in your cluster, you can do like the Flux bootstrap command. So Flux, they are having like the command line tool, so you can install the command line tool and connect with your Kubernetes cluster and just to bootstrap. So here I'm saying like, okay, Flux bootstrap and using my GitHub repo. This is my GitHub repo, the ID, and set up this Flux repo, Flux CD demo, and couple of other parameters like whether it's a private repo and you need to set up the deploy key or not, and what are the components it has to set, right? So here I have added the component like a source controller, customize controller, Helm controller, notification controller. And also like I have added other components as well for doing some image automation. I will show the demo of that, but you can understand like there are certain components in the Flex. Basically that's doing like source sync, applying the customized YAMLs, managing the Helm release, doing the notification, all those stuff, right? And also I'm saying like, okay, this is the path I'm looking for. So set up the repo, and this is the path you need to start the bootstrapping component. So once you do that, I already did, but I'm showing the command here. So once you do that, what it will do is, yeah, so this is the initial stage. So what it will do is it just like create this Flex system directory under the clusters dev. So this is like the path we have already gave, right? So here, you can see just set up like a couple of YAML files. So if you already know like the customization, it's just like an overlay. So you can understand like, okay, this is the directory it's going to apply in the Kubernetes, and it has the components and also like the sync.yaml, right? So here what it's doing is it's just saying, okay, this is my Git repo to the cluster so that it just can like pull the changes whenever it's needed. And in that repo, so this is the Git repo, right? And in that repo, find the customization file, that is the Flex system. So find the customization file here and apply all the YAML files in that directory. Right? So basically it's just like a clusters dev, and whenever the change is happening in that directory, or like adding YAML or like deleting YAML files or updating that, this Flex operator, it's knowing like, okay, I need to look at this directory. If any changes happening, then I need to apply that change, right? So you can see like it has a couple of interval settings as well, so that we know like, okay, every 1 minute it's just going to check like the main branch, and if any changes there, then it's going to apply that change in the cluster, right? So this is the initial setup there. So now I need to add like a couple of components in my Kubernetes cluster, right? For example, I need to add service mesh, and I need to add like a Prometheus Grafana, and I need to add like the app specific code. So for that one, let's go back here, main branch. So I added like a couple of folder. Let me show that. So previously we had like the clusters dev Flex system, right? So I just like added more file there. Apart from this, the basic YAML files, I'm saying like, okay, infrastructure.yaml. So in the infrastructure.yaml, I'm providing the path, and that path is like the infrastructure folder here. Basically, it has like, okay, get all the sources. Sources is basically like the Helm chart repo or like any other Git repo. Installed a service mesh, the linked, and the linked file is having like the linked YAML, basically like some of the Kubernetes API files, right? And also like for the monitoring, I need like the monitoring specific tools that has like Prometheus installed, and install the Flagger for like doing the progressive delivery. So that is like one of the Helm release here, right? So basically like this is the declarative language. I'm managing like my cluster related tools. So the declarative language is like mostly built on top of the customization, customized files. And it's specifically saying like, okay, this is my Helm release you need to manage, and this is my Kubernetes YAML files. The cluster has to be installing that, and for Prometheus, I'm having like different YAML files here. So basically, like all the YAML files I needed and all the Helm releases I needed, instead of directly installing that in the Kubernetes cluster, I put everything declaratively in the Git repo, right? And configuring this Git repo into the cluster so that the cluster, the Flex operator is continuously looking for this repo, and whenever there is a change, it just like apply that changes. So let's see that the quick demo here. Since I have already Bootstrap, so you can see like what are the sources that's available. Yeah, it has like a lot of source, but you can see like the different sources we have added to install like the monitoring or like the Flex system or like the Istio, lot of things, right? And also okay, so one of the sources the Flex system, that is where like our actual repo that's like changes there, right? So you can see like here. So one of the Git repo is like the Flex system. That's where like our code is deployed. So whenever like there is a change or you need to apply the change, you can just like reconcile. So basically just like reconcile manually, and it just like fetch the revision in the main branch and in E4 D19, right? So you can see that repo here, and that particular git hash is E4 D19 here. If you want to see that in history, or like I can so yeah, so it's like E4 D1923, right? Let's say like I need to create a new namespace in the Kubernetes. So what I usually do is, instead of directly going into the cluster and create the namespace, let's say like okay, so let's go to the customization.yaml, right? So here I'm going to create the namespace like one tag namespace, right? So I need to create a one tag YAML in the directory. So I'm just going to say like create a namespace that's called one tag, right? So now in the Kubernetes, you can see there is no namespace called OneTech here, right? Now I need to apply this state into the Git repo so that it's going to be like apply that directly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit the change, add OneTech namespace. I'm directly committing now, but ideally it should be going through. Ideally, it should be going through like the pull request flow, right? Where is my commit? Where is my push? Okay, I'm new to the code space. I should be doing in local. Is it done? Yeah, it's done here. Okay, so we have added like the new namespace. So let's see whether it's synced. It might be taking like some time. If we want to do that, we can just like reconcile, but ideally it should be doing it by own, right? So you just like fetched the new revision 52b622. That is the commit we have made here, 52b622, right? Now if we check the namespaces, you can see like the OneTech namespaces that got created. I'm just taking like a simple example, like creating the namespace, but ideally like whenever you are applying like any changes, like the application or like a new Helm chart in your Kubernetes cluster, instead of directly applying, you just bootstrap with your Flex and do every changes in your Git repo through pull request workflow. That would be automatically pulled into your cluster and apply the changes. So that's about like how we are configuring the source and also like how we are configuring the YAML files so that it just like immediately applying that into the Kubernetes cluster. So we saw like the customize thing. Customize is just like creating the overlay of the YAML file. So that's how like we created this the YAML file there, right? The next thing we are going to see like how the Helm releases that's got created. So I already created the Helm release. I'm going to show like how that's configured there. So you can see like the Flagger one. This is installed as a Helm chart. So you can see like I am adding the Helm release that's coming from the Flex CD API, and I'm saying like, okay, install the release. I'm adding a couple of values as well, and I'm saying like, okay, look for the Helm repository and do the install there, right? So since this is already synced, we can see like Flex get Helm releases. So we are having this Flagger installed as part of this entire workflow. Right? And also you can have like Flex get customizations. So this is where like we are saying Flex system app infrastructure, Flex system and all. So these are like the customization only. So using like a couple of declarative Kubernetes API, you can install these Helm releases and customization in your cluster. Right? So these are like the basic components that's in the Flex, in the toolkit component. There are like a certain component that's in other than this, the basic thing, right? One is notification controller. So the notification controller, so that like you can configure that your Flex system. So whenever there is changes happening, it just can like notify to like any of the configured alert channels. So the changes happening, then you just like get into the notification controller, and whatever the cluster changes that's happening, that just like push to Slack, Teams, or like Discord thing. So you can see that here, I have configured this notification.yaml. So I just added the alert provider. I'm just saying like, okay, do the discard alert provider, configure the discard alert provider, and get the discard webhook URL from the secret. And also I'm creating like the alert API. So this is where I'm just saying like, okay, any changes that happened in Git repo or like the customization kind, just like send a notification to the Discord. So when I'm doing like the namespace changes, you might be already seeing like a couple of alerts. It's just saying like, okay, what changes into that the system, right? So it just like detect what are the changes that's in the system and notify that particular alert channels so that we know like, okay, the changes happened in the cluster there. So that's a concept like they are building on top of the GitHub so that whenever like the change is happening, it just like notifies the user and user know like what happened over there. So that's how like I configure the Discord, but there are like other message channel as well, like Slack, Teams, um, and the other thing. Right? And finally, they have this new controller that is the image automation controller. So right now, like how it's happening is, okay, I have, let's say like, I will go back to the code again, I will explain. So let's say like I'm having an app, right? And that app is called podinfo.yaml. So I'm having the podinfo and I'm having this Kubernetes YAML file. Basically Kubernetes YAML file like, okay, do the deployment and this is my container details, right? So here I'm saying like, okay, container image is podinfo image version is 5.0.0. So whenever I'm doing like the continuous delivery, I need to basically like update this version. Okay, I'm updating to 5.0.1. So ideally it should be like changing this file, committing into the Git so that like the cluster pulls the changes, right? So every changes we need to update this image tag version. So, but it seems like more complex because every time we need to like go through that Flex repo and update the version, right? So for that, like the Flex comes up with the automatic image update controller. So we need to like create a image policy. Let me see here. Okay. So we need to create an image policy here. So I'm saying like, okay, this is the repo you need to look. And this is my policy. The policy is nothing but look for the version, the semantic version change. And if any changes happening in that particular range, don't ask for me or like don't ask for like the pull request flow. Just directly apply the changes by yourself, right? So we have that 5.0.0. Here I'm saying like, okay, if any image that's available in this repo, like 5.0.1 or like 5.0.2 as part of like this, the patch version, right? So if any patch version that's happening, just like apply the changes automatically instead of doing that. So that's a policy I'm setting up here, like having the image repo and the image policy and how I need to do the update automation there, right? So for that, I need to include the image sync policy. So let me do that. Okay, so I'm applying the policy now, and I have this podinfo YAML. It's saying like 5.0.0, right? So if I look the pod image details here, you can see the container has 5.0.0, right? So now I'm going to sync this changes, sync the changes in the sense like the image sync.yaml. So I'm going to commit. Okay, So I'm just like reconciling to save some time. So it just like fetched the revision, the new revision, right? And if you see the what's it? Let's get images. We're doing a couple of update, but let's see. Yeah. So now you can see it just get the new image for the pod info. It's doing the scan and it found like the latest version 5.0.3, right? So initially we had like 5.0.0. Now it resolved to like 5.0.3. So if I go to the repo again here, what happened is the image update controller in the Flex system, the operator, so it just scans that image repo based on the policy we have applied. It found like the new version 5.0.3. So it just like created a pull request to the repo. Since I have added this tag, which image policy it's using, it just like scan and update the version to like 5.0.3. So it's like managing it's on their own based on like the policy it's created. Since it's like how this thing happening is like the controller updates it and pushes the commit to like a Git repo, and it's again sync back to that the code, right? It's synced back to the cluster. So now you can see like the changes happen, and if I look at the version here, it changed to 5.0.3, right? So using these image policies, we don't need to like do any changes on the Git. It's just like you can just update the repo and push the changes to the container, and the container will take care of the operator will take care of like applying the changes to the cluster. So that's how like this image update policy is also working. Yeah, right. Yeah. So these are like the major components we talked about, like all these things. But ideally, like the Flex is for like as I have said before, we need to think about like the infrastructure, the cluster management, and the app delivery, right? So the Flex helps like the cluster operator for like configuration of the cluster, like configuring the secrets or like configuring your config maps, all those the Kubernetes related configuration. The cluster operators will do that, and the platform engineers who build like continuous delivery, and the app developers will rely on the continuous delivery. Basically, like the app delivery thing managed in this GitOps related stuff. Yeah, so that's like the overall introduction about Flex and the demo on that Flex thing. Okay, so we talked about like the continuous delivery, right? So whenever like the change is happening, it's applied to the cluster. But there are like the progressive delivery also. That is one of the important thing in like Kubernetes, especially when we are dealing with like a continuous deployment there. Instead of like switching over to the next version immediately, we can do like the progressive delivery, like hey, do the canary deployment for like 10% of request, or like increase that to like 20%, 50%, something like that, right? So for that in Kubernetes, we have like a lot of service mesh, like Istio or like AWS App Mesh or Linked or Nginx controller. So ideally, this is doing what this is doing is it just doing like the traffic route shifting, right? So I have a service, let's say like I'm having a microservice A, and version 1 is running, and I'm deploying a new version 2, right? So the switch between version 1 and 2, instead of happening like everything at the same time, we are going to have like a couple of techniques, either canary based deployment or doing like a AB deployment or like a blue-green deployments. So this the service mesh, it's going to have set some policy so that like based on the policy, we know like, okay, 20% it's going to the new version and 80% it's in the older version. And slowly it's just like rolling out like, okay, 30, 50, 80, and 100% to the V2, right? In the meanwhile, like it needs to continuously monitor also to understand like, okay, how the new version is performing. Is it okay? Or like, is it throwing more errors? Or like, should we run like a couple of load tests on the version 2, whether it's working good or not? So those kind of the validation also we need to do. In the current Kubernetes world, without these kind of tools, everything is going to be like the manual step at most, because we need to apply a couple of Kubernetes YAML files into the cluster so that it can identify like when it can switch to certain percentage of the traffic, right? So that's why like these kind of Flagger tool, this is helping us to do that automation. We are just like applying the policy, like, hey, I'm going to release the new version 2, and this is my service mesh provider. Then the Flagger will create the necessary YAML files to basically apply that traffic shift based on the policy we are setting, right? So you can see like in this example here, this Flagger is just like create primary and canary service. So whenever like there is a new changes happening, it just like switch to the canary based deployment, right? And also just like monitor the Prometheus, so it can understand like how many percentage it's going for like primary or how many percentage it's going for canary deployment. So basically just giving like the safe releases and also like the flexible traffic routing, working with like every service mesh, and also like it's having like extensible validation. So either you can have like the manual approval, like hey, I'm rolling to like 50% to 80% or 100%, or you can have like the programmatical verification such as load testing or like the error verification as well, right? So I will quickly show the policy file that would give you like more clear picture. Where is my here? Okay, so here I have this canary.yaml. So I already installed the Flagger through Helm release, and this is the canary file. I'm saying like, okay, you need to look for the pod info deployment and do the analysis, basically like do the step 5. That means whenever I'm deploying the new version, it's going to do like, okay, 5%, 10%, 15% like that, right? And also I'm setting up like a couple of metrics, like a minimum request success rate should be like 99%, and couple of other duration and all, right? And also I'm having like a webhooks, so that like before rolling out, it's just doing like some acceptance test or doing some load test on that new deployment. So ideally, like whenever new deployment happen, it not like replacing the existing deployment as we usually do in Kubernetes. It create like another canary deployment and slowly rolling out, right? It's doing like the progressive thing. So let's see here. So I have this the pod info primary. This is the version we are using, right? So you can see. It has the version 3.1.0, right? So I'm going to set like 3.1.1 directly. Now what happened is it's still like 3.1.0, but we have that canary started. So you can see like it just progressing. So it slowly rolled out like 3.1.0 to 3.1.1 based on the policy we have set. So it just like slowly increasing like 5% to 100%. And once it's like successful, then it just like roll out into like 100% to the 3.1.1. Yeah, right. It would take some time because it's running like a couple of load test and acceptance test. But once everything is like successful, just like go for each and every step and do the progressing thing. So that's how like the Flagger works as like the overall concept here to do like the progressive delivery stuff, right? So you can see like this is what I got told. V1 5% to the V2 and slowly like changing everything to the V2 here. So in overall combining like the Flex and Flagger, you can see like we have the Git repo that has namespace, all these canary rules and Helm release, and the Flex is like getting that from both Git and the Helm repo sources, and also like the Flagger is taking care of the canary deployment, the progressive delivery by monitoring the Prometheus cluster here. So basically like this is the complete workflow using the Flex and Flagger. So whether to use like the GitOps operator, it's again like the trade-off, right? Because the current approach, it's like okay, but like whenever it's going like more complex, because we are working for like one of the clients. In the client, they have like a lot of Kubernetes related deployment, and they need to do this kind of progressive delivery as well, right? So for that, like this Flex and Flagger that helped us a lot, so that like we set up the continuous delivery, which is already part of the DevOps pipeline, but we use the Flex to do like management of the cluster, and also like Flagger to use this kind of progressive delivery without applying like the Kubernetes YAML file manually and doing the approval, right? We have set up like everything in like the load test, and whenever like the new version changes are released, the Flex apply the changes, and the Flagger is just like running the acceptance test and load test before rolling into like the new version. So that's how like we have implemented this the Flex and Flagger GitOps workflow in our existing production Kubernetes cluster. So whenever like you want to implement, it's again like based on trade-off, how complex it's going, or like how much flexibility you want to do like the management of the cluster and doing this delivery, right? It might look like complex, but once you get into that flow, and once you set up that the entire delivery system, the app delivery, that's going to be a lot much easier compared to like the actual setup here, right? So yeah, ideally like finally it's a trade-off between the pros and cons on using these kind of GitOps tools. So I have provided the reference here like the Flex V2, Flagger, and the GitOps technology. And also like you can check out the Argo CD. Pretty much it's the same concepts and everything, but they are having like a different API engine for using that. So you can check that out as well. They have like a couple of workflow more than the GitOps, so you can like check that out in detail there. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm good over there. Any questions?
What is an alternative Flagger? Like besides Flagger, what is this industry?
I didn't see anything so far. At least I see like the Flex alternatives. I didn't
Argo
see any.
is more well known than Flux, right? I mean, just in general, being around longer, but Flagger, like I'm trying to figure out, seems to.
Yeah, I didn't see anything because yeah, I didn't see. Probably like they might be having certain thing, but I didn't see anything on like the cloud native landscape. Okay, they have like the Argo rollouts that's coming part of like the Argo CD.
Okay, so Argo itself covers both, is
Yeah,
that?
Argo has like Argo rollouts. Yeah. Flagger is part of like the Flex thing only. So it's like two different tools that's pretty much doing the same thing. Yeah, we got this auto rollups here.
I mean, I like
A
that.
question for you. Oh, go ahead, Santos.
No, please go ahead.
So I have a quick question. Well, maybe not so quick, but I don't know that this is specific to AKS or even GitOps. But one of the things that my team struggles with on occasion is a developer will put in some new setting, local settings.json or something, and ideally all of those should, when we get to QA or prod, all of those should be in Key Vault or Azure App Configuration or something like that. But one of the things that we don't have is really a validation to say a new setting has been applied, and we should have that in one of those other locations. Otherwise, the deployment should fail. We shouldn't deploy with a missing configuration value someplace. Is there anything within this whole sort of pipeline that, in your experience, or a best practice that could really be adopted that would prevent an invalid state of being deployed because of a missing configuration somewhere?
So that's for like the drift detection process we talked about, right? In the Terraform, we manage like this infrastructure in the Terraform. So the Terraform knows like its state. So whenever like you need to detect the drift, you need to like store the state somewhere so that like you can compare that state, right? In the Terraform, what we did is we are setting up a new the repeating action. So we are saying like, okay, every 1 hour, just apply the Terraform, right? Without apply that, just like do the dry apply. So if there are any changes, then we know like, okay, something happening in the infrastructure itself directly, right? So because the Terraform is maintaining the state, and any changes happen directly in that infrastructure, and you are trying to apply the Terraform or trying to create the Terraform plan, you just understand like, okay, there is some drift happen in that process, right? So I'm talking from like the Terraform perspective, but it might be the similar concept in like other infrastructure management, how you are setting that up. In your case, like okay, you set some key vault value changes, but that got like changed or something. Ideally, like the ARM template or like your infrastructure as code tool should know like, okay, I have this particular value in that field, but something got changed, right? So you need to set up like some continuous verification process to make sure it's there.
Okay, thanks.
What does the rollback look like?
For like the Flagger.
Yeah.
Yeah, once it's like fail set the progress we have set up, it's just like it's again like instead of V1, V2, it knows like every step, it just run the test. If it's something happened, it just like go back to the V1. Like how it went, it just go back to the V1. 1 second,
Okay,
I
so
have.
it gives Prometheus to basically look at the rollout, and if necessary, it rolls back itself. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, it would be automatically rolled back here. So here they have provided an example like another deployment they are doing, like 3.1.2, but they have some generate HTTP 500 errors. What will happen is it just like going back like 60%, 55%. So it just like roll back to that threshold and scale down to that the previous version, roll back to the previous version. Right? So it has like a lot of service mesh like Istio or like Linkerd or using like the Nginx, but pretty much like the concept is the traffic shifting based on the policy it has.
Along the same lines, I'm having trouble picturing in this whole setup how you would manage secrets? Because it seems like, anytime GitOps comes into the picture, like secrets like connection string and, it becomes harder to manage those, right, in GitOps because everything becomes centric to Git. So
yes, so there are like a couple of techniques people are using, I see, but we have used like Kubernetes external secrets provider. We are using these Kubernetes external secrets from the Kubernetes group, right? Yeah, one second. It's from the GoDaddy, but it's as part of the Kubernetes thing. So what it's doing is here we deployed this in AWS build. So we have used this AWS Secrets Manager that is similar to the Key Vault. So where like we have created the secrets and all, right? In the actual cluster in the Flex system, we are just pointing it to that particular secret version, and only the cluster or like only that the pod that has pulling the secret that only have access to the secret manager. So from the repo, we are not doing like any secret, hard-coded secret. We are just saying like, okay, this is my Kubernetes secret. And in the cluster, we configure like, we need to pull that from the external secret manager, right? That is one way. And there are like the other way people are using like doing that. I forget what does that mean. So basically doing like the encryption in the Git and store that secret in the Git itself. So it may not be like exposed in the Git, even though you are storing the secret in the Git. It's not like exposing. It's just like only that particular system only can decrypt that secret. One second. I think they have, yeah, sealed secrets. So even though like you are storing the secret in the repo, it's not like exposed. It's just like encrypted one. Right? So if you create the sealed secret resource, the encrypted data might be look like this, but only like your tool can only decrypt basically like this.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I see like both approaches, but ideal thing is like we discussed this one, but ideal thing is like managing everything in like Key Vault and let Kubernetes sync that and try to avoid like any secret in the Git repo. I will share.
So this is kind of an open-ended question, but for somebody who really hasn't done a whole lot kind of in the world of DevOps, kind of just using OpenShift on the job, but like what would be a good kind of self-study path for kind of getting a handle on, just what the options are in these different tools, or kind of what the general entries in each of these areas, like what they do and that kind of thing.
Yeah, generally like if you're looking for that the basic Kubernetes related stuff, that would be like where I would start, because when I enter into the Kubernetes world, it seems like more and more tools. We don't know like what's going on, right? So I started with like just understanding like the Kubernetes and play with like um, the tutorial from like Azure or like the Microsoft. Try to understand the Kubernetes. But once we enter into the world, then we are slowly like exploring the problems and identifying the tools to implement, right? So if you are starting, then probably I would say like try to understand like the basic Kubernetes concept. And if you want to do like more advanced DevOps in the Kubernetes, um, then like based on the problem you might exploring in the Kubernetes world. I didn't see like any different from like the actual DevOps thing, but most of the tools are like based on Kubernetes native um, right? So that's the only thing I would suggest there. So try start with like the Microsoft Docs on Kubernetes and its ecosystem.
So, going down that path and kind of getting into the Microsoft Docs and that kind of thing, would you recommend just kind of setting up a sandbox kind of in Azure to pop up as spin up pods and that sort of thing, or?
Or you can use like your local Docker for desktop as well. They have like the local Kubernetes cluster. But if you want to learn a little bit more about like how cloud providers are using the Kubernetes, then I would suggest like spin up some cluster in Azure. But you can do locally also using like a Docker for desktop.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably sounds a little easier even. Great.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I added a couple of links. One is the original Kubernetes the hard way. If you want to, go through that, I think going through that gave me a lot of clarity on, what it's the ecosystem is all about. I still get confused by all the different things in the CNCF ecosystem because they throw out 10,000 names like Argo, Istio, Tetrate. I just start to blank after a while. I would still, if you have a good primer on that, I would be happy to. Yeah, can you drop that link in here? I think I need.
This one, right?
I need to get a better understanding of that too. But the other link I dropped in here is Kubernetes the hard way on Azure. So that's a very Azure centric one. So whichever one works for you, Dave.
Yeah, and this
Gotcha.
is
Okay.
the
Okay.
yeah, and this is the landscape they have. So it's growing every day, right? So each and everyone having their own purpose as well. So ideally, like we need to choose based on what problem we are trying to solve.
Right. Yeah. I think I've seen this diagram before, and it's it certainly is overwhelming for somebody who doesn't work in this area often.
Yeah, and I think the uh, best suggestion I have for that is, for each different, and I can hardly read this, my eyes are probably going bad, but for each different area, what you can do is you can simply take the, container management runtime. So each one probably has like a well-known service that, the cream rises to the top type thing. So just take that and use that, I guess, instead of having to, go through all the different things in here. But yeah, this is kind of daunting.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
For example, like monitoring, we are using Prometheus.
Yeah.
They have the different stages as well, like still incubating or like graduated. That means the maturity level of that, the implementation as well.
I think people like naming things. So, Thanos, I mean, good grief. Who came up with that name?
Now is it whether they're higher on the list with a graduate or whatnot? Does that mean they cost more money typically, or is that not necessarily related even?
It's not related. Prometheus graduated. It means that it's probably gone through the rigorous process, of being in an open source ecosystem and being, vetted and accepted widely. So I don't think Prometheus is free, but I mean, I'm sure that you can pay for it, and corporations do prefer to pay for things because they can pick up a phone and call someone. But all of these, the CNCF ecosystem generally they try to make things free.
Oh, yeah.
So other than compute, the compute is the expensive part, but other than that, they try to, start you off with the free stuff as much as possible.
Gotcha. That's cool.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm seeing this, but good grief, yeah, makes my head spin.
Yeah, indeed, indeed.
And the reason Siva, I was asking you about Argo is we are currently using Argo, so that's why I was wondering, what the
Okay.
differences between Argo and Flux. And,
Yeah.
it seems like they forked at some point, and they don't really. It's not an easy switch over.
Yeah. We tried the Argo first, but somehow like collectively everyone chose like a Flex and Flagger. So for our client, we are using like Flex and Flagger there.
Wow. I think I need to print the. Do you know if they like sell this in a poster size so that I can put it on the wall behind me and make that my backdrop or something? Because it's certainly big enough to be a poster by itself.
The
Yeah.
downside is it'll be out of date in about 3 days.
Yeah, that's true.
Have to be like one of those big fathead posters. It just takes up the entire wall.
Yeah, instead of Fathead, it's like Kubernetes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this database streaming and messaging, I'm not sure what rose to the top over there. So, going through this poster, there's an application definition and image build, right? So if you look at that one, CNCF graduated as Helm, so you can pretty much use Helm and forget about everything else. And if you look at the next one, CI/CD, they have Flagger and Flux as and Argo as the leading candidates in there. I mean, I'm sure that everything, every provider in the world, including Azure Pipelines and everyone else is in there. So, if Azure Pipelines work for you, just use that. So you can skip the rest. So when learning, just go with what you know initially and then build on top of that. Still making my head spin. Yeah, but observability, you have Prometheus.
Logging, Fluentd. Yeah, this is what we are using.
Yeah, I think it's a good container registry. That part I would, I question this a little bit. Arbor, okay, that's great, but there's like well-known, better container registries. So you might have to, go with Amazon ECR or Azure Container Registry, or whichever one you feel more comfortable with, Docker Hub. So sometimes you have to go away from the CNCF, but if you know something in there, use that. If not, use CNCF. Interesting diagram. Okay.
I think like the gray diagram is the gray boxes is like outside the Kubernetes, and the white boxes is like you are installing in the Kubernetes, right? Because I think that's how, because in the container registry, Harbor, Dragonfly are like Kubernetes managed container registry, but like the Azure, ECR, those are like the cloud providers thing. Right? Similarly for somewhere I saw the thing, like the Prometheus and all. You can see like the Datadog, New Relic, these are like outside of the cluster. But the Prometheus Cortex you can install in the cluster itself.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yep. All right.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions? Let's stop the recording. Select them. I'll let you do the honors. This is your meetup. Sorry.